Can you hear me, guys? Okay, thank you. Fine. So, today we are going to discuss about host profiles and update manager. I think Sridhar already prepared lab. Okay, fine. So, we'll recap host profiles once again concept. So, host profiles feature creates a profile that encapsulates the host configuration and helps to manage the host configuration, especially in environments where an VMware administrator manages multiple hosts or cluster under your vCenter server. Okay. So using the host profile, we can automate it and centralizedly we can manage a configuration compliance. Okay. So using the host profiles, what are the configurations we can do post deploy of your ESXi host? We can see it. So I'm creating a test host profile to show what are the initial configurations there in their post deploy of your ESXi host. Here is the profile. You can able to see what are the default configurations are available or you have to configure for your post deployment of ESXi host. So storage configuration you have to do it, network configuration, date and time, firewall configuration, security configuration. If you are having any service profiles, you can create that. This service profile based on your hardware, it will be available. And advanced configuration option. Under this, you can able to find. So whatever configurations are here, those configurations are applicable for your ESXi host. And whenever you deploy ESXi host, the following configurations you need to be configured. Okay. So even you can configure your host configuration files and authentication configuration. Under authentication configure, you can configure your Active Directory integration and agent VM configuration. Using agent VM configuration, you can able to configure your VM data store and network settings, password authentication configuration, ESXi kernel module configuration. There are configuration, the following configuration you have to do post deploy of your ESXi host. Are you guys done these steps manually? Are you guys configured these settings during deployment of your ESXi host? I think everyone deployed the ESXi host, right? So how many of you guys configured few of the configurations post deploy of your ESXi host? So whatever configurations you guys are seeing here, those configurations you have already done it post deployment of your ESXi host. Let me take an example, storage configuration. So if you are having NFS configuration, use this NFS configuration information. If you have configured storage fiber channel or Ethernet configuration, you have to use this. Under this fiber channel or Ethernet, you can able to define your software FCOE configuration, adapter configuration, and if there are any activation profiles are there existing, you can enable that. And the PSA, these are all storage types, and under the storage types you are configuring policies or configuration. Pluggable storage architecture, we will call it as PSA. So under this you can configure multiple options, PSA device sharing and your PSA device identifier. Okay, and using these settings you can able to configure that your PSA sharing policies, and by default we'll use NFS storage configuration and your ISKC initiator configuration in day-to-day activity you will use. So based on your infrastructure design, you can configure storage. So in our environment, we have ISKC initiator configuration. So we have to configure ISKC initiator configuration policies only. Okay. So this is suitable for our existing infrastructure. So under ISKC initiator configuration, you can define your ISKC initiator identification. It's a VMHBA 33 or 34. You can manually define here. And also you can able to select software ISKC initiator selection. Okay. And software ISKC initiator configuration, under that you can able to configure initiator IQN, initiator alias. This is ISKC initiator which I am talking about. Initiator chap level authentication model. You can use the chap level or you can disable the chap level authentication using this parameter. So these all are configurations are customized as a catalog. Whatever icon you are seeing for all the configuration tab, that is called catalog. Okay, every catalog have a configuration for your ESXi host hardware or software components. Okay, so using this you can able to do the configurations of your for your ESXi host. Any questions? We haven't generated Sridhar, we just used it. So this templates provides by your host profiles. So we have to point any one of the host. Then only by default it will configure. Let me explain you this way. I have installed 52 ESXi host. So post installation I have to configure network. Under network I have to configure vSwitch. Inside vSwitch I have to configure port groups and I have to mention VLANs and I have to configure port group policies like security policies, Prometheus mode, MAC address, forwarded transmits, traffic shaping, whatever policies you are able to see on this screen, I have to configure manually for all the port groups. Okay, and also network actual speed duplex, I have to configure automatic or I can use full duplex. So these policies I have to assign manually post deployment of your ESXi host. So and also I have to configure storage. So I have to discover my storage from so storage box or specific network file system or NFS server. So that I have to configure it manually. Okay, and also I have to allocate a storage policies for my data stores. So most recently used round robin and fixed. These are storage policies. So these policies I have to configure manually. Okay. At the same time, when you go back to your storage adapters, so I have to configure network configuration and I have to configure VM kernel port group and I have to assign an IP address and I have to discover send targets and static discovery. I have to do it manually. These are the configuration, whatever I am saying, this has to be done manually. So like that, the above hardware components configuration I have to do manually post deployment of my ESXi host. At the same time, post installation of ESXi host, I have to configure license, time configuration. Under time configuration, I have to assign my NTP server and the time zone I have to specify. Under DNS and routing, I have to configure my router and Active Directory information. So like that, I have to configure various configuration under my software part in ESXi. Even coming to the security profile, there are various services are there. These need to be configured. Okay. So coming back to your question. So the configuration whatever we discussed, those are customized and providing by your host profiles by default when you create a new profile. So we are taking reference from existing host. Why? Because it has to understand what type of hardware you are using. Then only it will show you the catalog profile, catalog ESXi host profile. Okay. That is the reason we are taking any one of the host here. Then it will identify the hardware and version of your ESXi software. Then it will generate the default configuration template or catalog for your ESXi host. It is taking as a reference. Okay, it's not generating 0.52 ESXi host configurations. It's using this 0.52 ESXi host and identify the hardware and software versions it is having, your 52 ESXi host having. Then it will tell you what are the configurations you can able to do it. Is that clear, Sridhar? Okay, fine. So, any questions, other guys? Any questions? Okay, fine. So, the advantage of, let me go through workflow, host profiles workflow. So first you have to set up and configure the reference host. So you have to install ESXi host and you have to configure reference host. Later also you can do the configuration on your reference host. Why? Because so if you use the if you post deploy the ESXi host, if you wanted to do the configurations manually, you have to go to individual component. Under hardware, if you want to configure storage, you have to go to storage and network. Each and every component you have to identify on your ESXi host. As well as under software also, you have to go to the following components: license, feature, time, configuration, etc., etc. So these configuration you have to go manually and you have to edit and you have to do the configurations. Instead of that, you can use host profile and you can create a profile. Using the host profile you can edit and you can do the all the configuration from here itself. You no need to browse or identify the all the hardware components or software configuration settings from your ESXi host. Using this host profile catalog you can do all the configurations. Even voice hypervisor settings also you can do it. Hypervisor configuration settings also. Okay. So that is the reason we are saying set up and configure the reference host and create a host profile from the reference host, because we have to know what type of hardware and ESXi version you are using it. So I have the 10 ESXi host and it is having HP Blade servers and I am using ESXi 5.5. So I can take any one of the HP Blade server I will use as a reference host. Using the hardware and software I will create configurations and I will create the host profile saying that HP Blade server. Whereas I have Dell servers, 5 Dell servers are there and I have ESXi 6.0 installed. So I can take any of the ESXi host as a reference host and I will do the configuration. So creating host profile from the reference host, reference that. So based on your requirement and based on your host and hypervisor type, you can create host profile and you can create apply those profiles on your various hardware vendors and various hypervisors versions. Attach other hosts or cluster to the host profile. Once you create the using the reference host, if you created the host profile, you can attach the other hosts or cluster Okay, so if you are using Dell, so once you create the Dell host profile, you have to attach the same hardware vendor and the same hypervisor cluster or ESXi host. I will repeat once again. When I use my ESXi 6.0 and the Dell hardware reference host, I have to apply that reference host profile to my Dell ESXi host or Dell ESXi host cluster only. Okay. Then once you attach that host profile for specific reference host profile, it will check the compliance and you can able to apply the based on results you can able to apply the host profile. So any questions? This is the workflow will be followed by your host profiles while applying on your hosts or clusters. Any questions on host profiles workflow? Okay. Okay. Moving to the next slide. Creating a host profile. So you can create the host profiles using vSphere client and vSphere web client. But there is a major difference. So if you go through the vSphere client, host profiles is available under your management option on your vSphere client homepage. Whereas if you go to the vSphere web client, your host profiles are located on under monitoring tab. So using the vSphere web client, you can identify this icon, plus icon. Using that, you can able to add a host profile. So through vSphere web client, under home page, under monitoring tab, you can able to find the host profiles. Whereas coming to the vSphere client, under management, you can find the host profiles. Okay. And one more important thing, whenever you use the reference host to create a host profile, so you should not use any offline ESXi host because it won't discover. Okay, is that clear? Moving to the next slide. So attaching a host profile to a host or cluster. So through vSphere web client, you can create it, and using the icons, you can able to attach. Here you can able to add it. Client is a little bit slow. Let's move to vSphere client. From here I can show you that. So using here you can right click, you can add ESXi host, and you can find the version of your host profiles, as well as you can verify that which reference host you are using for host profiles. Okay, you can add host using the attach host or cluster option. Okay, even you can able to update this host profile settings. Okay, so using the attach or host or cluster, you can able to attach the ESXi host to your host profiles and checking compliance. So once you add the host, you have to check the compliance. So it will result you the compliance will result you the settings. It will validate whatever host profiles are there and the reference host is using. The same settings will be configured, or it will validate hardware and the software settings on destination host. For example, I am using 053 as my reference host. So I have to use, let me go back to 53 host. So 53 host having manufacturers to be filled by OEM, model, blah blah blah, and it is having 2 CPUs and 3 GHz CPUs. So evolution copy, it's running on evolution mode. Whereas coming to the 54 ESXi host, it is also configured with the same, but the processor make is different. Okay, when it is validating, when your host profile is validating, by the time as you are taking reference host profile as 053 host, it will validate the same settings for your 054 host also. And when you do the compliance checks, it says your 54 host having different processor. Okay, like that it will validate all the hardware configurations and all the software configuration settings on your 53 host. Whatever are there in 53 host, that will be cross verified on your 54 ESXi host. So that comes under your compliance result. Okay, let me show you that. Okay, 52, 54, 5. So when you see here, the complaint result comes, it matches 100% successfully. That is the reason. Now you can able to apply the profile. If there are any errors that comes here, and it will show you what are the mismatch configurations are there in your destination host. Let me show you here. This way it will show you, because it is having different VM NIC cards and resource field settings also different, and also uplink not connected, port groups management network policy also different. So list of NTP servers also non matching for our 54 host when I compared with my 53 reference host. Okay, so you have to fix these errors, then you can apply the host profile. Whereas coming to the profile 52 host profile, it is having same hardware. Why? Because your 52 is manufactured with the VMware hardware vendor. It is having 2 CPUs and all the hardware configuration and software configurations are same. and I am taking the same family of hardware and same version of ESXi hypervisor. Okay, so that is the reason when I use this reference host 52 and when I verify the compliant result for 055, it says compliant is successful. Any questions? Okay, it's not applied any settings. It is just cross checking the reference host configuration to your destination host 055. And the reference host is your 52 ESXi host. Okay. Okay. Now once it is shows the result compliance status, then you have to move this ESXi host into maintenance mode. You should not directly apply profile for your online ESXi host. So if there are any misconfigurations, then you may lose the network or you may lose the license. Whatever configuration settings are there, mismatched configuration settings for your 55, those will be disconnected. It might be impact your virtual machines also. So that is the reason you have to move your destination host or applying host profiles, ESXi host, those should be moved into maintenance mode prior to apply the host profiles. Okay. So I am moving 55 ESXi host into maintenance mode. So it's not having any VMs. However, if you move the maintenance mode, if it is configured DRS cluster, then it will migrate to mission. It will migrate the virtual machines to destination host. Okay, fine. So 55 host is moved to maintenance mode. Now you have to apply the profile or remediate the host profile, which is configured profile 52. So it will show you the configuration settings for your 52 ESXi host hardware and software configurations. Whatever configurations you have done it, those configuration will be applied to your 55 ESXi host. It's taking time. Let me try from vSphere web client. It is already configured. Okay, fine. So when you say apply profile, it has to store your 52 configuration files. Then you have to say finish. Then it will apply the profiles. It's not showing in the lab. It is already compliant. So what it will do is when you apply the profile, whatever profile settings are there. Storage configuration, NTP, whatever hardware and software configurations are there on this catalog, profile 52 catalog, that will be applied on your 55 ESXi host. Either you can apply this profile 52 catalog to a single ESXi host or to a multiple ESXi clusters, even multiple ESXi nodes also. Okay. Even you can exit maintenance mode from here once you've done the complaint. This is already completed. That is the reason it's saying succeeded. So I'm moving host from maintenance mode. But these host profiles are more useful if you are having multiple ESXi host environment configurations. So only we have to spend the time for creating host profile. So you have to configure it on a ESXi host, single ESXi host. If you are having 62 ESXi hosts under this cluster, so 64 ESXi hosts. So you can take any of the ESXi hosts and you do the configuration settings, configure hardware and software configurations. You can do that and you can use that as a reference host, and you can do the all the configuration settings for rest of 63 ESXi host in fraction of seconds. Whereas if you have to do that in manually, it's take days. Using the host profiles, we can do the configurations of your ESXi host hardware software configuration policies in seconds. Okay, so any questions? So while once you check the compliance, you can able to find out this, and using this non-compliant, you can remediate that. Then you can able to find the result. But nowadays, in how many cluster can we add? Okay, I will come to that question. So nowadays, you can able to do the remediation option is built in for your host profiles. Okay, so it will, when you do the check compliance itself, it will show you the compliance and non-compliance ESXi host information. So when you find the non-compliance, you can forcibly remediate whatever settings are there on your ESXi host profile. Okay, there are some vendor defects are there, so known bugs will be there. So during that time, you can forcibly remediate your host profiles. Okay. So coming back to Murali question, how many cluster can we add under one profile? So it just depends on your host profile. You can add almost whatever vCenter server maximum configuration cluster support by your vCenter server. So how many ESXi host supported by your vCenter server? How many ESXi hosts supported by your vCenter server? Each cluster can support maximum 64 nodes. So my question is, how many ESXi hosts supported by your vCenter server? Okay. So if you take the configuration maximums, it will tell you as per VMware, your vCenter server can support maximum 1000 ESXi host. Even if you go to the administration vCenter server settings, you can able to find out that under database. Here it will show you. So my question, you are talking about thin, thick. Okay, again, okay. Hope you guys are able to see this configuration maximums. Hope everyone able to see this, right? So your vCenter server will be support 1000 ESXi hosts. So you can calculate per ESX one ESXi cluster. You can maximum deploy 64 ESXi nodes. So, but your vCenter server supports maximum 1000 ESXi hosts. So you can calculate how many clusters you can create. Okay. So it's almost around 14 or 15 plus clusters you can able to create, and you can attach a single host profile to your 15 plus ESXi clusters. Is your question is clear? Murli? So you can able to add 15 plus ESXi clusters to your single profile. But all the 1000 ESXi should have the same hardware and same ESXi version. Okay. Any other questions? Shall I move to next slide? So host profiles is completed. So in this module, we'll end host profile workflow, identify how to create host profile, recognizing how to apply host profiles to your ESXi host and ESXi cluster, use host profile to perform remediation on an ESXi host. So these are the topics we discussed. And these topics you can able to do it on your using the lab guide, you can able to perform on labs. So any doubts on host profiles? It's a simple concept, but when you go to the enterprise level environments, it is very useful to validate and apply ESXi host hardware and software configurations and its policies. So any doubts on host profiles? So if you guys are not having any doubts, then I will move to the update manager and patch management module. Okay. So how many of you guys are working on WSES or SCCM, SCVMM, sorry, SCCM and WSES? WSES and SCM I'm talking about. WDSE is different, that is Windows Deployment Service. That is for deploying operating systems remotely. So what is the use of WSES? Okay, it is for this dedicatedly update the patches for your Windows operating systems. Okay, fine. Like that, in VMware environment also we have a tool called vSphere Update Manager to update patches for VMware ESXi host and VMware virtual machines. So what are those? We can see that. So in this lesson we are going to describe about VMware vSphere Update Manager functionality, list the steps to install vSphere Update Manager, and use vSphere Update Manager, create and attach baselines. So these are the updates we are going to describe in next slides. So about vSphere Update Manager. So vSphere Update Manager enables centralized automated patch and version management for your VMware ESXi hosts, virtual machine hardware, VMware tools, and virtual appliances. So using the vSphere Update Manager, we can centralizedly create a repository, patch repository, and we can do automated patches to your ESXi hosts, virtual machine hardware, and VM tools and virtual appliances. So vSphere Update Manager reduce the security risks, reduce the number of vulnerabilities, eliminates many security breaches that exploit older vulnerabilities, which are there in the repository of your Update Manager. vSphere Update Manager reduces the diversity of systems in an environment, makes management easier, reduce security risks. vSphere Update Manager keeps machines running more smoothly by patching included bug fixes, makes troubleshooting easier. Let's talk about first Windows patching, how it will be do. Then we'll talk about your VMware patching methodology using the update manager. So you guys need to be answer how we can do the patching on Windows. So what are the ways to do patch for my Windows mission or Windows system to patch? What are the ways I can use? This is my Windows boxes. These three are. How can I do patching? I have three Windows systems. So I wanted to update patches. What are the mechanism I will use? Okay, for standalone systems we can run the Windows updates locally using Windows update option. So any other, I don't have internet. So how do I do that? So let's talk about standby, then we can talk about centralization patching server. So in standalone, you can able to download the patches using the Windows updates feature, as well as you can able to download the patches from your Microsoft portal, and you can save it on some shared folder. From there you can access the patches and you can install it, or you can copy it on some CD, DVD or any external storages, and you can attach to your standalone system and you can install the patches. This is about standalone system patch upgradation activity. Okay. So if you are having 100 systems in your organizations, you have to deploy WSES or SCCM, and you can download the patches on your SCM or WSES server. And you can deploy the patches to your all three clients, right? So what are the advantages if I deploy a centralization server and do the patching? What are the advantages if I do the, we can manage the patches, okay, reduce the internet bandwidth, okay, okay. So the major advantage is you no need to download the patches on your local systems. So you are saving the local storage. First one is, okay, and you are downloading all the patches on your central repository server, that is WSS or SCM. Okay, and the second one, as Sridhar said, so internet bandwidth. So you, when you do the standalone system or centralization available system, you no need to connect internet, and you no need to individually download the patches on individual systems. It means 100 MB patches are there. So if you are having 3 systems, you have to download 300 MB 300 MB size of patches to your 3 systems using the internet bandwidth. Whereas coming to the centralization patching system, you just need to download the 100 MB file on your central repository and you can push that patches to your 3 systems. Okay, so doing this centralization management, you are saving internet bandwidth. And coming to manages the patches, so there are some non-applicable patches or older version of vulnerabilities are there on your systems, Windows systems. So using the centralization management tool WSS or SCCM, you can able to install or uninstall or recall non-supportable patches on your client systems. So that is the reason Sridhar said manages patches. Once you push the patches, you can able to uninstall as well as using SCM tool. Okay, so you need to just schedule a job and you can push it to your or network, you can push it to your Windows clients. So that is the reason Sridhar said time. So till now everyone is clear. We are talking about Windows patches, patching process on standalone and centralization deployed patching server. Okay. Now we'll talk about update manager. So update manager was introduced from our vSphere virtual infrastructure 2.x onwards and by generation it was enhanced. Using the updater manager, we can able to centralizedly install a repository, patch repository, and we can do the patching for your ESXi host, virtual machine hardware, VMware tools, and virtual appliance. We can't perform guest operating system patches. Can you give me give me an example of guest operating system? What are the guest operating system we'll use in VMware environment? Yeah. So overall we can say Windows or Linux. How do we identify that? Somebody can tell me. How do I identify my virtual machine vSphere 6.0 virtual machine supports what are the guest operating systems? How can I identify that? My question is clear. So your guest operating system will be support Windows, Linux and other platforms, 64-bit or 32-bit platforms. Under Windows, the following Windows operating system versions will be supported by your guest operating system. And under Linux, the following Linux flavors will be supported by your guest operating system in vSphere 6.0. And under other guest operating systems, you can able to see Apple, Sun Solaris, whatever hypervisors are there. Those also supported by your guest operating system. Is that clear to everyone? So inside virtual machine, whatever guest operating system is there, those guest operating system patches will not taken care by your VMware vSphere Update Manager. Your vSphere Update Manager can able to do the patches for your ESXi host virtual machine hardware, virtual machine tools, and virtual appliances. Okay, so virtual machine hardware in the sense, so your update manager take cares only your virtual machine hardware version. If it is having lower version, using the update manager, you can able to do the upgradation of your hardware version for your virtual machines. Even tools also you can able to update, install, update from your vSphere update manager. And if you are having any virtual appliances, using the update manager, you can able to upgrade the virtual appliance patches. Even your ESXi host version also you can able to update. So this is called, whatever is I am highlighting, that is called your ESXi version and build number. Using the patching tool vSphere Update Manager, I can upgrade my ESXi hypervisor build version. Even ESXi hypervisor also I can able to update. Okay. Any questions? So vSphere Update Manager reduces security risks. So using the update manager, you can able to eliminate not required patches for your VMware virtual infrastructure. That is the reason here we are saying vSphere Update Manager reduce the security risks. How we can do that? Reduce the number of vulnerabilities. So whatever non-applicable vulnerabilities are there, those you can able to ignore it using the central repository on your vSphere Update Manager. Eliminates many security breaches that exploit older vulnerabilities. So if you are having older version of vulnerabilities, you can able to eliminate or ignore. Only applicable patches using the update manager and your infrastructure versions, you can able to update it. Rest of patches you can able to eliminate it. vSphere update may reduce the diversity of systems in an environments. So using the update manager, you can able to do the patching easier way, and even though you can able to manage easily by eliminating patches, non-required patches, you can reduce the security risks also. So the last point is vSphere update manager keeps machines running more smoothly by updating patches, whatever bugs are there on your VMware environment. Your VMware vendor will release the patches, and once you download those patches to your vSphere update manager repository, you can able to push those patches and you can fix those bugs. Then your virtual machines runs smoothly, and it makes troubleshooting easier. Okay, any questions on this slide? If you are not having any questions, I will move to the next slide. Yeah, the basic fundamental thing is when you done the patches, there will be a release notes. You have to read it 7. So in that Release notes, it will tell you. So your system need to be reboot, or it's not mandatory of reboot of your system. So if it is reboot required, you have to request a maintenance window from customer. If it is not, that patch installation not required any reboot, so you no need to take the maintenance window from your end customer. Seven, is that clear? Okay, fine. So vSphere Update Manager capabilities. So vSphere Update Manager enables cross-platform upgrades from your VMware ESX to ESXi. So ESX is removed or decommissioned this hypervisor in or from vSphere 5 onwards. So there is no more ESXi from vSphere 5. However, if you are having older version of ESXi, your using the update manager, you can able to upgrade the ESX to ESXi hypervisor. Okay. Automated patch downloading begins with the information only downloading. So we haven't installed the update manager, I guess. Sridhar, are we installed any Windows machine for update manager? I think can use this physical system, I guess. You have upgraded the RAM. Let's see. So your patch repository begins with the information only patches it will download, and you can schedule your patches applying intervals. Once you install your update manager, we can configure or we can download the information only patches, as well as you can able to schedule the regular configurable intervals. It means if you are having VDI environment, you wanted to do day-to-day patches upgradations, so you can configure those patches information on your vSphere update manager. Not guest operating system. This is for only virtual machines which are there in your VDI environment. That comes under VMware hardware version, VMware tools. Okay. Then you can create a baseline and baseline groups, and we'll discuss more about these baselines and baseline groups in next slides. And the scanning. Inventory systems are scanned for baseline compliance. So whatever ESXi hosts or virtual machines are there, first you have to do scanning, what are the existing versions are there, as well as you have to add your virtual infrastructure in your VMware vSphere Update Manager. By scanning this task, by using the scanning option, you can able to scan your VMware virtual infrastructure. Okay. So remediation. So remediation, inventory systems that are not compliant can be automatically patched. So whenever you do the cross check or compliance check, whenever it is not compliant, then it can automatically patch on your vSphere Update Manager. So reduce the number of reboots required after tools updates on your virtual machines. So During the VMware tools upgradations using the vSphere Update Manager, you can specify post update the VMware tools. You can schedule the timelines to reboot of your virtual machines. So in earlier versions, it's not there. So once you push the tools upgradation task using the update manager, then it will reboot. But 5.5 onwards, you are having a customizable reboot option. So in that reboot option, you can able to mention the timelines when that particular VM need to be reboot post upgrade the VM tools. Any questions on this slide? So I'm moving to the next slide. vSphere Update Manager components. vSphere Update Manager includes several components and requires network connectivity with VMware vCenter Server. Okay, vSphere Update Manager server component install on the same computer as Windows vCenter Server on a different computer. So client components, vSphere Update Manager client runs on the desktop. Use the vSphere Update Manager client to perform patch and version management of the vSphere inventory. Update Manager tab in the VMware vSphere Web Client plugin also available. Use this used to view scan results and complaint stage for vSphere inventory objects. Your vSphere Update Manager have separate database. So it's uses to store and organize server data. The server data we will call it as a repository or patch data. So vSphere Update Management components are your vCenter server. So if you are using vCenter server, multiple vCenter servers for your vCenter servers, and you have configured a centralized vSphere Update Manager for your multiple vCenter servers, you can able to use it. But if you are already configured multiple vCenters as a linked mode service, and if you wanted to patching, that is not possible. Whatever vCenter servers individually registered with your VMware Update Manager, vSphere Update Manager, so those vCenter servers can able to do the patching task, patching or hardware, VMware tools or virtual appliances versions upgradation task. So is that clear? Any questions? It means, so if you configure the linked mode vCenter servers, under linked mode you can able to configure 10 vCenter servers. So you wanted to use for those 10 vCenter servers a single vSphere Update Manager, you can't do it. But individually, if you configured and registered 10 vCenter servers, then you can able to use the single vSphere Update Manager and you can able to patch your VMware virtual infrastructure. Okay. And vSphere Update Manager client can run on your desktop, and server version you can able to run on your Windows 2008 Service Pack 1 above operating systems. And your vCenter server uses the database, that is SQL, Oracle databases it will use. So I'm moving to the next slide. So requirements for installing vSphere Update Manager. So vSphere Update must be installed on a Windows 64-bit operating system machine. vSphere Update Manager server requires SQL Server or an Oracle database. Your VMware virtual infrastructure should have vCenter server. Update Manager 6 is compatible only with your vCenter server 6. You can install the vSphere Update Manager server and vSphere Update Manager client only on Windows machines. So it means Linux machines you can't install Update Manager or Update Manager clients. Any questions? I'm moving to the next slide. Installing vSphere Update Manager. To use Update Manager, you must ensure that your vCenter Server 6 already installed on your virtual infrastructure, and create and prepare a database for your vSphere Update Manager. So it's not at all related with your vCenter server database. You have to dedicatedly deploy a database for your vSphere Update Manager. Install the vSphere Update Manager server and Update Manager client. Enable the vSphere Update Manager plugin on your vSphere web client as well as vSphere client. So using these plugins you can able to install your Update Manager plugin here. Once you deploy a Update Manager server, here you can able to see your client plugin is available here. Right click on that particular client plugin and you can deploy it on your Windows machine. Okay. Any questions? Okay. I'm moving to the next slide. So configuring vSphere Update Manager settings. You can modify the vSphere Update Manager configuration only if you have the correct privileges. And you have to configure network connectivity settings, patch downloading settings, and your Update Manager proxy settings. And checking for update settings, that is a download schedule, we can say that. So these are related with your patches checking and patches update settings. You can configure here. Notification check schedule settings also you can configure it. Virtual machine settings, host and cluster settings you can able to configure under your vSphere Update Manager itself. It means you can able to move maintenance mode, host prior to update the patches. Those settings you can able to do it on your vSphere Update Manager only. Even network connectivity settings, your patches downloading settings, proxy settings, all these settings you can able to configure on your Update Manager. Any questions on this slide? So that proxy, Murali, that proxy comes to your vSphere Update Manager. Okay. So using that proxy, you can able to push the patches to your clients using the Update Manager. Okay. Whatever patching server if you take the Windows or Linux or vSphere Update Manager, so it uses the proxy settings to push the patches. Okay. So I'm moving to the next slide. So baseline and baseline groups. A baseline consists one or more packages, extensions or updates. vSphere Update Manager includes 2 default dynamic patch baselines and 3 upgrade baselines. Okay. So try to understand the baseline. Then we'll discuss about your baseline groups. Okay. So using the baseline, your baseline contains patches and extensions or upgrade patches for your ESXi host. Okay. I think we haven't configured, right? Fine. Fine. So baseline groups consist of multiple baselines and contain one upgrade baseline per type and one or more patch and extension baselines. So under baselines, you will have the patches, extensions and upgrades. Inside baseline, you can able to create multiple baselines. VMware segregated, update manager segregated dynamic patch baselines and 3 upgrade baselines. What are those? We can see it while configuring the baselines on your update manager. So coming to the baseline groups, it consists or contains multiple baselines. Okay. So let's talk about your update manager baseline default dynamic patch baselines. So update manager defined 2 type of default dynamic patch baselines. One is critical host patches and the second one is non-critical host patches. This is defaultly created by your update manager. You no need to do anything. And the 3 upgrade baselines are VMware Tools Upgrade or Match Host, VMware Hardware Upgrade to Match Host, and Virtual Appliance Upgrade to Latest. These are the 3 upgrade baselines are there. By default, it is configured on your vSphere Update Manager. So while upgrading ESXi host patches, you have to select dynamic patch baseline. Okay. Are you guys are able to follow me? Okay. So your default dynamic patch baselines contains critical host patches and non-critical host patches. This is purely applicable for your ESXi host. Okay. And 3 upgrade baselines applicable for your virtual machines and virtual appliances. So those 3 baseline upgrade baselines are VMware tools upgrade to match host. Second one is VMware or virtual VM hardware upgrade to match host. And third one is virtual appliance upgrade to latest. Any doubts? Okay. So baseline and baseline groups, we have two parts in our vSphere update manager. Using the baseline or baseline contains one or more patches, extensions or upgrades. Under baselines, you are having two type of baselines. One is default dynamic and second one is upgrade baselines. Okay. Under default dynamic, you have two categories of patches. That is critical host patches and the second one is non-critical host patches. These two default dynamic patches can apply to your ESXi host. Is that clear? Now coming to the upgrade baselines, we have 3 upgrade baselines. Okay. So these 3 upgrade baselines can applicable for your virtual machines and virtual appliances. What are those? I will explain. So under the upgrade baselines, you are having VMware tools upgrade, VM hardware upgrade and virtual appliance upgrade. These are the 3 baselines are there under your upgrade baseline group. Okay. So this is about baselines. Any questions about baselines and its group, okay. So coming to the baseline group, your baseline group consists multiple baselines. It might be dynamic patch or upgrade baselines. It means your baseline group contains your ESXi host patches or your virtual machine, tools, hardware and virtual appliance upgrade baseline. Any questions? Are you guys are able to follow me about baseline group? Okay. I think 7. Okay. Okay. Yeah, due to power cut, 7 was reconnected. Let me quickly explain about baseline and baseline group. Okay, so a baseline consists one or more patches, extensions or upgrades. And under your baseline you are having two type of baselines, which is default dynamic patch baseline and upgrade baseline. Is that clear, Seven? So coming to the baseline default dynamic patch baselines, you are having two. One is critical host patches and second one is non-critical host patches. These two baselines, dynamic baselines, can applicable for your ESXi host patches. Okay. And coming to the upgrade baselines, you are having three upgrade baselines. One is VMware tools upgrade, second one is VM hardware upgrade, third one is virtual appliance upgrade. So these are the baselines are available under upgrade baselines. So overall you are having two dynamic patch baseline and three upgrade baselines. Is that clear, Shaman? Now coming to the baseline group, your baseline group contains multiple baselines. It might be dynamic or upgrade baselines, or you can configure dynamic plus upgrade baseline as a group. Okay. Any questions about baseline group? So I'm moving to the next slide. Last one, a baseline group. Okay, your baseline group consists multiple baselines that might be your dynamic patches baseline and three upgrade baselines. It means your baseline group contains your ESXi host patch baseline and VMware tools upgrade, VMware hardware version upgrade, and your virtual appliance upgrade baseline can contain on single baseline group. It's based on your environment, you can able to configure the patching mechanism. Is that clear, Shavan? Okay, I'm moving to the next slide. Creating and editing patch or extension baseline. So patch we can create under our dynamic patch baseline. You can create custom patches, extensions and upgrade baselines to meet the needs of your specific deployment by using a new baseline wizard. So the following tasks you can able to do it on your labs. Okay. So based on your infrastructure, if you wanted to perform a patch upgradation for your ESXi host, you can choose the dynamic baseline, dynamic patch baseline, and you can create a baseline group and you can attach ESXi host and you can scan it, and you can, once you see the scanning result, you can do the compliance, then you can remediate the patches. This is the sequence we have to follow it. So based on your infrastructure design, why I am saying based on your infrastructure design is, if you are having a cross or mixed mode ESXi environment, then you have to create a separate dynamic patch baseline for your ESXi host patching. So I have ESXi 5.0 and ESXi 5.5 ESXi host. Then I have to create various dynamic patch baseline groups for my ESXi 5.0 and 5.5 ESXi hosts patching purpose. And the following steps you can able to do it on your lab. Okay. Then once again I will explain that. So it's right clicking on your update manager and you have to create the fixed patch line or dynamic patch baseline. So these things are there on your, these things will tell you based on your infrastructure design, you have to create a patch for ESXi host or virtual infrastructure tools upgradation. Based on the infrastructure design, you can select that. You have to create fixed or dynamic baselines. Okay. Any doubts on this slide? Sorry. Any questions on this slide? Else I can move it to the next slide. So attaching a baseline. So to view compliance information and scan updates in the inventory against baselines and baseline groups, you must first attach baseline and baseline groups to these objects. So these are your baselines. And you can able to see the type of, are you guys are able to see this diagram? Fine. So once you add the inventory, register the vCenter server, and once you able to see the vCenter server inventory from your update manager, you have to create a baseline. It might be your patching fixed or dynamic baselines, and you have to add host. So adding host, you should create a baseline and you have to attach nodes. So if you log into the vSphere web client, you can able to find the update manager tab once you install the update manager client or plugin on your vSphere web client. Here you can able to see the update manager, right? So under that you can able to find scan and attach for these specific baselines. So once you select the attach tab, it will show you your VMware vCenter server inventory. What are the hosts are presented, what are the virtual machines are presented under the vCenter server. So whatever host you wanted to patch, you can select that and you can add it to this baseline using this attach option under your update manager tab. Okay. So any doubts? Okay, I'm moving to the next slide. Scanning for updates. So once you attach the host, and if you are doing patches and extensions, you have to choose the patches and extensions. If you are doing ESXi host upgrade from one version to another version, like ESXi 5.0 to 1 or 5.1 to 5.5 or 5.5 to 6.0, then choose the upgrades option. Okay. Then you can scan for updates, and whatever baseline it is attached, that baseline contains whatever information that will be upgraded to your ESXi host. Okay. Any doubts on this slide? So viewing compliance for vSphere object. So under update manager baseline summary, you can able to see the attached ESXi host compliance status. Once the compliance status is succeeded, then you can push the patches, or once your compliance status is succeeded for upgradation, then you choose the upgradation activity using your baselines and baseline groups. Okay, so I'm moving to the next slide. Remediating objects. You can remediate virtual machines, templates, virtual appliances, and ESXi hosts. You can perform the remediation immediately, or you can able to schedule it. Okay, the patches upgradation or ESXi host patches upgradation or extension installation or extension upgradation or ESXi host upgradation, hypervisor upgradation, you can remediate immediately, or you can take the schedule time from your end customer and you can schedule it later also. Okay. Host remediates runs in a different ways depending on the types of baselines that you attach and whether the host is in cluster or not. Okay, the host remediation runs in a different ways, and whenever you scheduled a remediation, the host will be moved into maintenance mode. Then whatever baseline attached to that particular host, that particular baseline, whatever content is there, that will be pushed to remediate to your ESXi host, whether it is a standalone host or whether it is a part of cluster. Okay. For a ESXi host in a cluster, the remediation process is a sequential by default. So whatever host is part of ESXi host is part of your cluster, the remediation process has a sequential. It is defined by your update manager. Okay, first it will move the host into maintenance mode. During the maintenance mode, whatever virtual machines are there, those machines will be migrated to your DRS enabled ESXi cluster other node. Then it will move out from your ESXi cluster. Then it will start the patching process, patching or upgrade process. Okay. Remediation of hosts in a cluster requires that you temporarily disable cluster features such as DRS, DPM, and high available admission control. So your remediation process will disable remediation of host, whatever is hosted on ESXi cluster, your remediation process sequence will be temporarily disable your cluster feature like distributed power management, high availability admission controllers. These features will be, cluster features will be disabled during the remediation process. Any questions on this slide? For ESXi host in a cluster, the remediation process is sequential by default. Okay, so if your ESXi host in a cluster, the remediation process, the patching remediation process is already defined by your vSphere update manager. The defined process is a sequential. That sequence is first your update manager while remediating baseline group onto your ESXi host. Your update manager will move ESXi host into maintenance mode. During the maintenance mode, whatever virtual machines are there, those will be migrated to your DRS enabled cluster. Okay, once the virtual machines are migrated, your host is moved into the maintenance mode, then your remediation process is disable the DPM and high availability admission control on your ESXi cluster. So the third part elaborated on fourth point. Okay, so the remediation sequence is host should be moved into the maintenance mode. During the maintenance mode, moving by your ESXi host will migrate all virtual machines into a DRS enabled cluster. This is the sequence will be followed by remediation process when a host in ESXi cluster. Mohan, is that clear? Fine. Any other questions? I am moving to the next slide. Patch recall notification. So what does it mean by patch recall notification? Okay, let me explain that. At regular intervals, vSphere Update Manager contacts VMware to download notifications about patch recalls, new fixes, and alerts. So this notification check schedule is selected by default when you're configuring the vSphere Update Manager. Okay. So when you configure notification check schedule, your vSphere Update Manager contact with your VMware portal. From there, it will recalls the patches or any new fixes are available on your VMware portal, or any security alerts were generated on your VMware portal. Then your notification check schedule will be triggered a pop-up on your vSphere Update Manager console that's appear on your vCenter server warnings and critical alarms. Here it will show you that. Okay. On receiving patch recall notifications, Update Manager takes the following actions. Generate a notification in the Notification tab under your vSphere Update Manager console. No longer applies the recall patch to any host. Patch is flagged as a recalled in the database. So once it is flagged as a recalled patch, your database itself ignores or it will show you a different icon on your patch repository whenever VMware recalls the patches, and deletes the patches binaries from its patch repository once it is flagged as a recalled patch. Your database or patch repository will delete that particular flagged patch, I mean to say. Okay, so vSphere Update Manager does not uninstall recalled patches from ESXi host. It waits for a new patch and applies that patch to make host compliant. Okay, whereas if you take the WSA or SCCM, so it will recall the patches from your client's missions also. But whereas in VMware environment, your update manager marks or flagged a recalled patch on vSphere Update Manager database, and it deletes patches from your patch repository, and it won't call back or recalled that flagged or recalled patch from your ESXi host, and it will wait for next patch release to fix the recalled patch bugs. And once the patches are available, and it will communicate your VMware portal and it will download directly to your ESXi host. Any questions? The same process happens in your Windows, but a little bit change. Earlier versions of VMware patches downloading will be taken by your Shavlik patch update tool that was there in VMware Virtual Infrastructure 3X version. From 4 onwards, you are having the update manager. So from 4 onwards, the patches will be downloaded and patches will be pushed to your ESXi host using the update manager. Any doubts on this slide? Else I can move it to the next slide. So using the vSphere Update Manager, these things we have to do it on lab. So anyways, these steps will be available on your lab guide also. What are the tasks you have to do it? Okay, install Update Manager server. I think Caesar is going to install Update Manager on AD mission and modify the cluster settings. It's not mandatory. Configure vSphere Update Manager. Under Update Manager, whatever settings are there, just explore those settings. It contains the patch schedule time, patch download schedule time, and patch notification schedules will be there. Once you configure the update manager, it will take at least 4 to 6 hours to download your available patches for your VMware environment. Be patient. At least 200 GB of space is required for your patch repository database. Once download the patches, you can create the patch baseline, attach it to your ESXi host, and you can do that remediation, scanning and remediation. Okay. I think we have completed update manager and host profiles. Any doubts on update manager? So we have another module. Yeah, once you download that, I can explain it, Sridhar. Once you download the patches and properly configured, better you guys can do the installation. Any one of guys you can do that installation. So whatever challenges you guys have, note down that and let me know so that I can able to help you. Okay, I can do that, but it will not useful for you guys. While doing, you will have the challenges. So anyone take the ownership. I think already Sridhar is already installed it. So you can use the lab and you can install the update manager and note down if you are having any challenges so that I can able to explain. Now I am saying earlier you have already installed. See that. Okay. So high availability and fault tolerance, and one more module is there, I guess. Resource monitoring. We have two modules are left. So once you guys done the lab for update manager, today we'll discuss the update manager only and its options. Okay. So today evening around 8 o'clock I am available to discuss update manager lab provisioning and update manager lab queries. Okay. Once you guys have the confidence and once I explain the other options in the update manager, so we'll move it to the next module, that is high availability and fault tolerance. Maybe tomorrow we can discuss high availability and fault tolerance. So once these are the modules are completed, then additional modules will cover it in other classes. Maybe next week we can cover backups, VDP, that is VDP, vSphere data protection, that we can discuss. Okay. So everyone is available 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. today. So now you guys can install the update manager and explore all the options, note down whatever queries you are having, and we can discuss in 8 o'clock session. Fine. So if you are not having any queries, I am going to close the session. If you guys have any queries, please let me know so that we can continue. We can discuss. Shall I close the session? Yes, Sridhar.
Hello,
Sridhar.
Krishna.
Yes, Sridhar.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am able to hear.
Okay. Okay. ఒక్క నిమిషం డౌట్ ఒకసారి ప్రొఫైల్స్
మీకు యాక్సెస్ ఏమన్నా ప్రజెంటర్ ని చేయనా?
ఇవ్వండి ఒకసారి. ఓకే. సర్వర్స్ మీ సిస్టమేనా ఇది?
మీ సిస్టమ్ ఇది, మీరు ఆర్డీపీ తీసుకోండి, ప్రాబ్లం లేదు.
హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్లో
ఓకే,
సేమ్ క్వశ్చన్ అండి. మళ్ళీ అంటే మీరు చెప్పినప్పుడు నేను
నాట్ ఏ ప్రాబ్లం.
హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్లో దీన్ని నేను తీసుకొని ప్రొఫైల్ క్రియేట్ చేశాను, రెఫరెన్స్ ప్రొఫైల్.
అవునండి, అవునండి.
ఓకే. సో ఈ రెఫరెన్స్ ప్రొఫైల్ మళ్ళీ అడుగుతున్నాను, నాకు అది క్లారిటీ
నో
కాలేదు.
ప్రాబ్లం, నో ప్రాబ్లం.
ఓకే. ఇది ప్రొఫైల్ రెఫరెన్స్ ప్రొఫైల్ కింద తీసుకొని క్రియేట్ చేసింది. సో ఈ ప్రొఫైల్లో డిఫాల్ట్ సెట్టింగ్స్ వస్తాయా, లేదా ఆ ప్రొఫైల్లో ఆ పర్టికులర్ హోస్ట్లో ఉన్న సెట్టింగ్స్ దీంట్లో యాడ్ అవుతాయా?
ఓకే, ఒక్క సెకండ్. ఫస్ట్ మీరు క్రియేట్ ఏ ప్రొఫైల్ తీసుకోండి, క్రియేట్ ఏ ప్రొఫైల్ తీసుకోండి, క్రియేట్ ఏ ప్రొఫైల్ తీసుకోండి, మీకు అర్థమవుతుంది.
ఓకే. ఇక్కడ
ఏమవుతుంది, క్రియేట్ ప్రొఫైల్ ఫ్రమ్ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ హోస్ట్.
అవును, ఇదే మనం సెలెక్ట్ చేసాం.
సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు ఏమవుతుందంటే ఇక్కడ ఓన్లీ మీకు హార్డ్వేర్ అండ్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ వర్షన్ ఏదైతే ఉంటుందో అది మాత్రమే మీ ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ హోస్ట్ నుంచి తీసుకుంటది.
ఓకే, అదర్ సెట్టింగ్స్ ఏవి తీసుకోదు.
అదర్ సెట్టింగ్స్ ఏది తీసుకోదు. మీరు నెక్స్ట్కి వెళ్ళండి, చెప్తాను. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఏదైనా హోస్ట్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకోండి. ఈ సెలెక్షన్ ఎందుకు చేసుకుంటున్నాం అంటే స్పెసిఫిక్ హార్డ్వేర్ని, స్పెసిఫిక్ ESXi సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఉన్న హోస్ట్ని సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకుంటున్నాం. మనకి ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ యాక్చువల్గా 2 ESXiలే ఉన్నాయి. Whereas coming to the various environments, they might have various hardware vendors, various ESXi flavors.
ఓకే.
ఓకే, సో అప్పుడు మీరు ఏంటంటే పర్టికులర్గా డెల్ హార్డ్వేర్ వాడి ESXi 5.1 ఒక పర్టికులర్ క్లస్టర్కి వాడుతుంటే మీరు ఒక హోస్టింగ్ రెఫరెన్స్ తీసుకుంటారు. ఓకే, నెక్స్ట్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకోండి, చెప్తా. దెన్ యూ కెన్ క్రియేట్ ఏ ప్రొఫైల్ నేమ్. ఓకే, ఓకే, ఎస్. హియర్ యూ జస్ట్ మీరు కాన్ఫిగర్ చేసింటే ఏంటంటే ఇక్కడ ఇప్పుడు ఓన్లీ డమ్మీ టెంప్లెట్ ఒకదాన్ని క్రియేట్ చేశారు, ఒక హోస్ట్ హార్డ్వేర్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ని యూజ్ చేసి. ఇట్స్ ఏ ఎంటీ, nothing is there, no configuration is there. Now if you go to the edit settings of this particular catalog, this is called total catalog. ఇది వచ్చేసి మీకు VMware ప్రొవైడ్ చేస్తుంది. ఈ ఏవైతే ఆప్షన్స్, కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ ఆప్షన్స్ ఉన్నాయో ఈ కేటలాగ్స్ వచ్చేసేసి VMware ప్రొవైడ్ చేస్తుంది. VMware అంటే హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్. ఇప్పుడు ఈ రెఫరెన్స్ 52 డెల్ హార్డ్వేర్ లో మీరు ఏదైనా కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ చేంజెస్ చేయాలనుకున్నారు హార్డ్వేర్ లేయర్లో, లైక్ HBA అడాప్టర్స్, నెట్వర్క్ ఇంటర్ఫేస్ కార్డులో టీమింగ్, ఇవి యూజ్ చేసుకొని మీరు చేంజెస్ చేయొచ్చు. హోప్
కానీ
చెప్పండి.
ఓకే, ఇది అర్థమైంది ఇప్పుడు మీరు చెప్పింది నాకు. బట్ దీనివల్ల నాకు పెద్దగా యూజ్ లేదు. మనం యాక్చువల్గా ముందు మనం మాట్లాడుకుంది ఏంటంటే అడ్వాంటేజ్ ఏంటంటే ఒక ప్రొఫైల్ని పర్ఫెక్ట్గా కాన్ఫిగర్ చేసి దాన్ని అదే ఒక హోస్ట్ని పర్ఫెక్ట్గా కాన్ఫిగర్ చేసి దాన్ని ప్రొఫైల్ తీసుకొని మిగతా వాటికి అప్డేట్ చేసుకుందాం అని మనం అనుకున్నాం. ఫస్ట్ టైం అదే ఫస్ట్ మనం ట్రై చేసింది కూడా అదే కదండి. ఫస్ట్ మనం ట్రై చేసింది కూడా టైం సింక్ మార్చి
అవునండి.
మార్చి దాన్ని ప్రొఫైల్ తీసుకొని ఆ ప్రొఫైల్ ని దీనికి అప్లై చేస్తే అది కూడా చేంజ్ అవ్వాలి అందులో కూడా.
డిఫాల్ట్ బిహేవియర్ అది.
అంటే ఏదైతే మనం చేంజెస్ చేసిన తర్వాత ప్రొఫైల్ తీసుకొని ఆ తీసుకున్న ప్రొఫైల్ ని వేరే హోస్ట్ లో అప్లై చేసినప్పుడు ఆ ఏవైతే సెట్టింగ్స్ అందులో ఉన్నాయి దీనిలో దీనిలో అప్లికబుల్ అవ్వాలి, అప్లై అవ్వాలి
ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ
ఫస్ట్.
ఎగ్జాక్ట్గా.
సో బట్ మీరు ఇక్కడ చెప్తుంది ఏంటంటే ఇది డిఫాల్ట్ టెంప్లెట్, దీంట్లో చేంజెస్ చేసుకొని అప్లై చేయదు. బట్ చేయొచ్చు, మీరు చెప్పింది కరెక్టే, చేయొచ్చు, కానీ ఇట్స్ హ్యూజ్ ప్రాసెస్ కదండి మళ్ళీ ఇందులో అన్ని చేంజెస్ చేసుకొని.
ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తున్నారంటే ఫస్ట్ మీరు రిఫరెన్స్ కిందే తీసుకుంటున్నారు మీరు చూడండి కావాలంటే. సో ఈ కేటలాగ్ బై డిఫాల్ట్ మీరు ఎలకేట్ చేసిన ప్రొఫైల్కి వస్తుంది. సో ఈ ప్రొఫైల్ని ఎక్కడ అప్లై చేస్తున్నారు మీరు? ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇది డెల్ హార్డ్వేర్ కింద తీసుకోండి అండ్ ESXi 5.5 ఉంది నాకు హైపర్వైజర్స్. సో అప్పుడు నేను ఈ రెఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ ని ఓన్లీ నేను డెల్స్ హార్డ్వేర్ సర్వర్లకి ESXi 5.5కి మాత్రమే నేను పుష్ చేయగలను. ఓకే, ఇందులో మీకు ఇట్లా చూస్తే ఏంటంటే చాలా స్మాల్ థింగ్ లాగా ఉంటది. ఓకే, ఒక మేజర్ వేరియేషన్ చెప్తాను. ఓకే, డెల్ హార్డ్వేర్ తీసుకుంటే కనుక మీకు HPA అడాప్టర్స్, మీరు డెల్ ఆర్కిటెక్చర్ తీసుకుంటే HPA అడాప్టర్స్ IO మాడ్యూల్స్ లో వస్తాయి మీకు. ఓకే, whereas coming back to your HP, it will come as mezzanine cards.
ఓకే,
మీరు చూస్ చేసుకునే రిఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ని బట్టి మీకు ఈ క్యాటలాగ్ అపీర్ అవుతుంది.
ఓకే
ఓకే, ఈ క్యాటలాగ్స్ అన్ని కూడా మీ హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్స్ లో ఆల్రెడీ డిఫైన్ చేసి ఉంటాయి. సో వెన్ యూ చూస్ ద స్పెసిఫిక్ హార్డ్వేర్ అండ్ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ హైపర్వైజర్ వర్షన్. ఇప్పుడు ESXi 5.0లో 5.1లో 5.5లో 6.0లో యూ హ్యావ్ వేరియస్ వర్షన్స్, వేరియస్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ ఐ మీన్ టు సే. సో క్యాపబిలిటీస్ పెరుగుతాయి, యాజ్ వెల్ యాజ్ మీ పోర్ట్స్ పెరుగుతాయి. పోర్ట్ గ్రూప్ లెవెల్లో మీకు స్విచ్ పాలసీస్ చేంజ్ అవుతాయి వర్షన్కి. ఓకే, మీరు కాన్ఫిగర్ చేసే OS ని బట్టి, హైపర్వైజర్ వర్షన్ ని బట్టి మీకు ఈ క్యాటలాగ్ అపీర్ అవుతుంది మీకు. అప్పుడు మీరు ఆ క్యాటలాగ్ లో ఆప్షన్స్ 1 by 1 మీరు కాన్ఫిగర్ చేసుకుంటారు ఒక హోస్ట్ కి. అండ్ ప్రొఫైల్ కాన్ఫిగర్ చేశాక సేమ్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ హైపర్వైజర్ కి మీరు అప్లై చేస్తున్నారు, అప్పుడే అప్లికబుల్ అవుతుంది. లేదు మీరు ఒక ప్రొఫైలే ఉంది, మీరు ఇప్పుడు ఇందాక చెప్పారు కదా, సో నాకు ఆల్రెడీ ఇవి ఉన్నాయి వేస్ట్ అయిపోతుంది టైం అని. ఇప్పుడు నా దగ్గర ఒక ఏజియం 64 ESXi హోస్ట్లు ఉన్నాయి, అన్నీ కూడా సేమ్ హార్డ్వేర్, డెల్లే వాడుతున్నాను, సేమ్ ESXi వర్షన్ వాడుతున్నాను 5.5. ఓకే, సో అలాంటప్పుడు నేను ESXi ప్రొవిజన్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఇండివిజువల్ ESXi హోస్ట్ కి నేను ఇండివిజువల్ గా కాన్ఫిగర్ చేయాలంటే ఇక్కడ ఉన్న సెట్టింగ్స్ అన్ని కూడా ఇట్స్ టేక్ హార్డ్లీ 3 to 4 hours for each host. Whereas I can spend the same time for one host on the same ESXi cluster and I can create a host profile.
ఇప్పుడు మీరు వన్ హోస్ట్ అన్నారు కదా, వన్ హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్లో చేంజ్ చేస్తే సరిపోతుంది. సే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ నేను ఒక చేంజ్ అప్లై చేయాలి 64 హోస్ట్లో.
ఓకే,
సో మాన్యువల్గా 64 హోస్ట్లో చేసే కానీ ఈ ప్రొఫైల్లో చేంజ్ చేసి ఈ ప్రొఫైల్ నేను అప్డేట్ చేస్తే సరిపోతుంది.
ఇది ప్రొఫైల్ అనేది మీకు మాస్టర్ కాపీ. ఓకే, so based on your hardware and your software it will change, the settings will be changed. ఓకే, సో అది మీరు కన్సిడర్ తీసుకోవాలి ఫస్ట్ పాయింట్ అది. ఓకే, సో మీరు అనేది ఏంటంటే నాకు ఇప్పుడు 64 ESXi హోస్ట్లకి నేను ఒక ESXi హోస్ట్ తీసుకున్నాను, ఒక స్పెసిఫిక్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ చేయాలంటే నేను ఓన్లీ ఒక ESXi హోస్టే తీసుకొని మిగతా వాటికి అప్లై చేస్తాను అంటున్నారు, రైట్?
లేదు, అంటే మీకు చెప్పిన సినారియో ప్రకారమే 64 హోస్ట్ ఉన్నాయి, అన్ని సేమ్ హార్డ్వేర్, సేమ్ వెర్షన్ ఉంది.
ఓకే,
నేను ఒక ప్రొఫైల్ ఈ రిఫరెన్స్ ఒక హోస్ట్ తీసుకొని ప్రొఫైల్ క్యాటలాగ్ వాటెవర్ క్యాటలాగ్ వచ్చింది, ప్రొఫైల్ క్రియేట్ అయింది.
ఓకే,
సేమ్ ఈ క్యాటలాగ్ లో నేను ఒక చేంజ్ చేయాలి, ఆ చేంజ్ నేను ఇక్కడ ఈ క్యాటలాగ్ లో మార్చి ఈ ప్రొఫైల్ ని నేను 64 లో అప్లై చేయాలి. am I right?
ఓకే, ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ బేసిక్ రూల్ ఈస్ without reference host we can't create the profile.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Why? Because it has to know the hardware and your software version.
Yes.
Without that, we can't create it. That is the reason they are saying you have to configure, you have to specify a reference host.
Okay, got it. అది ఓకే.
Okay.
ఆ తర్వాతే ఇప్పుడు ఓకే రిఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ క్రియేట్ అయింది, ఒక ప్రొఫైల్ క్రియేట్ అయింది, రిఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ తీసుకొని ప్రొఫైల్ క్రియేట్ అయింది. సో నేను ఇప్పుడు చేంజ్ 64 లో ఒక చేంజ్ చేయాలంటే ఆ చేంజ్ నేను అప్లై చేయాల్సింది ఈ ప్రొఫైల్లో. ఎస్, ఈ ప్రొఫైల్లో. ఆ ప్రొఫైల్ తర్వాత నేను దాన్ని కంప్లైంట్స్ చెక్ చేసి నేను అప్లై చేయాలి. am I right?
Exactly. But once if you take the reference host, whatever changes you are doing on the attached catalog, that will be applicable on your reference host only. It will not do changes on your other 63 nodes.
ఓకే. 64 లోనే అప్లై చేయాలంటే
ఏంటంటే ఫస్ట్ మీరు రిఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ లో టెస్టింగ్ అంతా సక్సెస్ఫుల్ అయిన తర్వాత ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ వర్కింగ్ స్టేబుల్ అన్న తర్వాత దెన్ మీరు ఏదైతే కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ చేంజెస్ చేశారో హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్లో అవి 1 by 1 మీరు చేసుకోవచ్చు, లేదా 64 ఎట్ ఏ టైమ్ చేయొచ్చు 63 హోస్ట్లకి.
సో మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు ఇంకో క్వశ్చన్, పర్వాలేదు కదండి?
నో ప్రాబ్లం అంటారు.
ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు నేను ఓకే మీరు చెప్పిన తర్వాత నాకు ఇంకో డౌట్ ఏంటంటే, ఓకే మీరు చెప్పినట్టు చేంజెస్ చేసాము, దాన్ని మళ్ళీ రిఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్కి అప్లై చేస్తాము. కంపేర్డ్ ఐ మీన్ చెక్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఆ తర్వాత అదే కదా అటాచ్ చేయడం అంటే, టెస్ట్ చేయడం కోసమే కదా అటాచ్ చేసింది.
ఇట్ ఈస్ ఆల్రెడీ అటాచ్డ్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఆల్రెడీ అటాచ్డ్ వెన్ యూ టేక్ ద రిఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్.
ఓకే, వేరే సిస్టమ్కి అప్లై చేసేటప్పుడు అటాచ్ చేస్తాం.
అవునండి, ఎగ్జాక్ట్లీ.
వేరే హోస్ట్కి.
అవునండి.
సో అప్పుడు మొత్తం అన్ని హోస్ట్లు అటాచ్ చేసి ఇది అప్లై చేస్తాం, అంతే కదా?
అవునండి.
ఓకే, అంతే, ఇదే డౌట్. అండ్ వన్ మోర్ థింగ్ అండి, ఇప్పుడు నేను చేంజ్ చేసింది వన్ పర్టికులర్ సెట్టింగ్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్ పార్ట్. ఓకే, ఆ ఒక్కదాన్నే నేను అప్లై చేయాలి అంటే ఆప్షన్ ఏదో ఉందని అనుకుంటున్నాను. మిగతా అన్ని ఇగ్నోర్ చేసి ఆ ఒక్కటి చేంజ్ ఒకటి అయ్యేటట్టు.
అంటే ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ డేట్ అండ్ టైమ్
చేంజెస్ చేశాను, ఆ ఒక్కటే డయాగ్నోస్ చేయాలి, ఆ ఒక్కటే చెక్ చేయాలి
అనుకున్నారు. తర్వాత మీరు రెమిడియేట్ చేద్దాం అనుకున్నారు ఆ సెట్టింగ్ మిగతా హోస్ట్ల మీద, ఓన్లీ ఆ పర్టికులర్
సెట్టింగ్ మిగతా అని. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఈ టెంప్లెట్ అంతా అన్నెసరీ రీడ్ చేయడం అన్ని అలా ఉందని అనుకుంటున్నాను.
We don't have like that. We have to write down a script and we have to push it. So host profile ద్వారా
మరి వాట్ ఈజ్ సెలెక్ట్ అండ్ డీసెలెక్ట్ అని ఒక ఆప్షన్ వచ్చిందండి.
ఎక్కడండి?
అటాచ్ చేసిన తర్వాత
ఓకే, మీకు వెబ్ క్లయింట్ లో అటాచ్ డిటాచ్ అనే ఆప్షన్స్ వస్తాయి. అది స్పెసిఫిక్ హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్ కి, అంటే హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్ కి మాత్రమే, హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ కి మాత్రం కాదు.
సో ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇది క్రియేట్ చేసింది, నేను ముందు టెస్ట్ కంప్లైంట్స్ చెక్ చేయాలి.
ఓకే, సో ఫస్ట్ హోస్ట్ ని యాడ్ చేయాలి. మీరు యాడ్ చేయాలంటే సమ్మరీలోకి వెళ్ళి ఇక్కడే రైట్ క్లిక్ చేసి అటాచ్ చేయొచ్చు. అటాచ్
అది మెయింటెనెన్స్ మోడ్ లో ఉండాలి.
It's not mandatory before adding.
Okay.
Only while checking the compliance it is mandatory. I don't think it is not attached. Attach it, just okay అన్నారు.
ఇంకొక నా డౌట్ సార్, డిఫరెంట్ ఒక్కొక్క క్లస్టర్ డెల్ హార్డ్వేర్ ఉంది, ఒక క్లస్టర్ హెచ్పి హార్డ్వేర్ ఉంది.
ఓకే,
అప్పుడు డిఫరెంట్ హార్డ్వేర్లు ఉన్నప్పుడు మనము రెఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ వేరే హార్డ్వేర్ ఉంటుంది, అది మ్యాచ్ అవుతుంది సార్ ఈ హోస్ట్ ఉన్న క్లస్టర్ కి ఇట్లా?
ఓకే, మీరు అడిగిన క్వశ్చన్ మళ్ళీ నేను రిపీట్ చేస్తాను, నాకు అర్థమైందో లేదో చెప్తారు కానీ. సో మీకు డెల్ హెచ్పి అని 2 హార్డ్వేర్ వెండర్స్ ఉన్నారు. సో ఆ కేసులో మీరు హెచ్పి హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్ డెల్కి వాడచ్చా లేదా, వాడితే గనక ప్రాబ్లం వస్తుంది కదా, ఐ రైట్?
రెండు క్లస్టర్లు ఇప్పుడు ఉన్నాయి, మనం యాడ్ చేసుకున్నప్పుడు హోస్ట్లన్నిటిని డెల్వి హెచ్పివి మన రెఫరెన్స్ హోస్ట్ కు మనం ఏవైతే చేంజెస్ చేసామో ఆ ఉన్న ఆ హోస్ట్లు ఉంటాయి కదా సార్, ఆ హోస్ట్లకు మ్యాచ్ అవుతాయా అంటే హెచ్పి డెల్ వీటికి ఉన్నవాటి.
ఓకే, సో అందుకని బేసిక్ రూల్ ఏం చెప్పానంటే నేను, మీరు ఏదైతే హార్డ్వేర్ ఈఎస్ఎక్స్ఐ వర్షన్ ఉందో అవి మాత్రమే యాడ్ చేయగలరు హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్లో. ఓకే, సో మీరు ఇప్పుడు హెచ్పి తీసుకెళ్ళి డెల్కి అప్లై చేస్తానంటే ఇట్ విల్ నాట్ అప్లికబుల్ బికాస్ కాన్ఫిగరేషన్స్ విల్ బి చేంజ్.
అప్పుడు మనము ఒకవేళ మన ఆ క్లస్టర్స్ కూడా దీంట్లో యాడ్ అయినంటే మళ్ళీ డిఫరెంట్ హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకోవాలి,
మ్యాండేటరీ అది. సో మీకు వేరియస్ హార్డ్వేర్ వెండర్స్ ఉంటే యూ హ్యావ్ టు డూ ఇట్ మ్యాండేటరీ, దట్ ఈస్ డిఫరెంట్ హోస్ట్ ప్రొఫైల్. సో వీ నీడ్ టు క్రియేట్ ఎ సపరేట్ host profile for Dell and HP.
ఓకే సార్, రైట్, ఫైన్.
ఓకేనా?
సార్ నేను స్క్రీన్ షాట్స్ తీసి పెడతానండి.
ఓకే,
నాకేమైనా డౌట్స్ వస్తే అవన్నీ ఒకసారి.
నో ప్రాబ్లం. ఓకే, I am sure specific configuration part we can't do it, but profile wise we can do that.
ఇది ఒక నిమిషం అండి, యాక్చువల్గా నేను ఇంతకు ముందు ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయలేదు.
ఓకే,
దీనిలో ఏమైనా స్పెసిఫిక్ సెట్టింగ్స్ ఏమైనా నేను ఫాలో అవ్వాల్సినవి ఉన్నాయా?
ఫస్ట్ SQL ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ ఉండాలి. మీరు దగ్గర SQL ఉంటే ఫైన్, లేదంటే బై డిఫాల్ట్ SQL ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేస్తారు అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసినప్పుడు.
ముందు ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయాలా ఎక్స్ప్రెస్, SQL ఎక్స్ప్రెస్?
మీ దగ్గర ఆల్రెడీ మన దగ్గర ఇప్పుడు డేటాబేస్ ఉందనుకోండి, డేటాబేస్లో ఒక కొత్త డేటాబేస్ క్రియేట్ చేసి VUM అని కానీ లేదంటే vSphere అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ కానీ ఒక డేటాబేస్ క్రియేట్ చేయండి. ఓకేనా?
ఇందులో లేదండి, ఇందులో
లేదు కదా.
SQL
అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ లోనే బిల్ట్ ఇన్ SQL ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ వస్తుంది. సో మీరు డిఫాల్ట్ సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకోండి.
ఇప్పుడు ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇక్కడ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేస్తున్నాను కదండి,
అదే అండి.
దాని తర్వాత క్లయింట్ కూడా ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయాలి,
అంతే అండి. దట్స్ ఇట్. సో నార్మల్ ఇన్స్టాలేషన్
VMware vSphere update manager and VMware update manager, what is the difference these two?
Both are same actually. One is in the MSI model, one is in the EXE format. So service pack 1 or above ఉండాలి. సో సర్వీస్
2012 కదండి ఇది.
ఈవెన్ 2012 లో కూడా రికమెండేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి మీకు. ఓకే, administrator privileges it is asking.
Okay,
run as administrator. Shift run as shift పట్టుకోండి. యా,
రాదనుకుంటా ఇది.
రన్ యాజ్ డిఫరెంట్ యూజర్ ఉంది కదా, అది క్లిక్ చేసి మీరు అడ్మినిస్ట్రేటర్ క్రెడెన్షియల్స్ ఇస్తే ఇన్స్టాల్ అవుతుంది.
ఒక్క నిమిషం.
నో ప్రాబ్లం.
లేదండి ఇది
Art data center, it will install, no problem at all.
కానీ
a product can be installed Windows Server 2008 or above. ఓకే, ఒక ఛాలెంజ్ ఏంటంటే ఇది మీకు డైరెక్ట్గా టీమ్ వ్యూవర్ వస్తుందా, RDBలో కొన్ని యాక్సెస్ అవ్వదు.
ఇప్పుడు నేను ఏం చేయాలి చెప్పండి.
అంటే
నేను అక్కడే ఫిజికల్ మిషన్ దగ్గరే ఉన్నాను, పర్వాలేదు.
ఒక్క నిమిషం. RDB కాదు కదా ఇది, RDBలో ఒక్కొక్కసారి సపోర్ట్ చేయదు.
నేను ఫిజికల్ మిషన్ నా పక్కనే ఉందండి, నేను చూడమంటే చూస్తా.
ఓకే, అక్కడి నుంచి ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయండి.
ఒక్క నిమిషం ట్రై చేస్తాను.
ఓకే,
సేమ్ ఎర్రర్ వస్తుందండి.
ఒక్క నిమిషం నేను చెక్ చేస్తున్నా 2012 డేటా సెంటర్ సపోర్ట్ చేస్తుందా లేదా అని చెప్పేసి. నేను 2012 R2 సపోర్ట్ చేస్తుందని ఇచ్చాడు యాక్చువల్గా. విండోస్ అయితే కనుక 2008 సపోర్ట్ చేస్తుంది అన్నాడు. డేటా సెంటర్ ఐ డెంట్ చెక్ దట్ యాక్చువల్లీ.
ఇన్ కేస్ మీకు vCenter అప్లయన్సెస్ లో ఇన్స్టాల్ చేయాలంటే
అప్లయన్సెస్ లో సపోర్ట్ చేస్తుంది, దట్ ఈస్ నాట్ ఎ ప్రాబ్లం.
అప్లయన్స్ లో ఇప్పుడు మీరు ఆల్రెడీ అప్లయన్సెస్ ఇన్స్టాల్ అయ్యి ఉంది మన దగ్గర.
మనం అప్లయన్స్ లో ఇన్స్టాల్ చెయ్యం. మ్యాండేటరీ ఈజ్ విండోస్ సర్వర్ ఫర్ ఇన్స్టాలింగ్ అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్. ఓన్లీ vCenter ని ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ని రిజిస్టర్ చేస్తాం. ఇట్ మైట్ బి అప్లయన్స్ ఆర్ vCenter విండోస్ సర్వర్.
ఓకే,
మీరు అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ విండోస్ లో ఇన్స్టాల్ vCenter సర్వర్ లో ఇన్స్టాల్ చేస్తాం అనుకుంటున్నారా?
అలా అనుకున్నాను.
లేదు, అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ సపరేట్ టూల్. సో మనం అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఈదర్ విండోస్ ఆర్ CLI vCenter అప్లయన్స్ ఇన్స్టెన్స్ ఏదైనా సరే రిజిస్టర్ చేయాలి అప్డేట్ మేనేజర్ లో.
ఓకే ఓకే.
సపోర్టెడ్ ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్స్ వచ్చేసి మీకు client database privileges are there. They are saying just like any 64-bit operating system. 2012 అయినా 64-bit బై డిఫాల్ట్ ఉంది. ఒకసారి DX ట్యాగ్ కొట్టండి ఇందులో. ఇది 64-bit. ఓకే, ఒక్క సెకండ్. వీడు స్పెసిఫిక్గా చెప్తున్నాడు 2008 R2 ఆర్ హైయర్ అని చెప్తున్నాడు. Then it should install actually. R2 above service pack 1 above ఉంటే కనుక it has to install. అండ్ 200 GB ఉంది కదండి C డ్రైవ్.
ఉంటుంది, ఒక్క నిమిషం. అంతవరకు వెళ్ళదు కదా స్పేస్.
బ్యాక్ అండ్ ఇట్ విల్ వ్యాలిడేట్ యాక్చువల్లీ.
బట్ ఇప్పుడు సిలోనే 200 GB ఉండాలని లేదు, మన ఇన్స్టాలేషన్ లొకేషన్ లో ఉంటే
డేటా పార్టిషన్ మనం సెలెక్ట్ చేయొచ్చు.
సో నో ప్రాబ్లం. బట్ కంపాటబిలిటీ ఇష్యూ ఓఎస్ తోనే వస్తుంది ఎర్రర్. సో 2008 విఎం మీద 2008 R2 ఇన్స్టాల్ చేసి ట్రై చేయొచ్చండి.
విఎం ఏదైనా చేస్తే ప్రాబ్లం లేదు, విఎం ఏదైనా చేయొచ్చు.
ఎందుకంటే అది ఫిజికల్ మిషన్ 500 GB పైనే ఉంది.
ఓకే, కానీ 2012 డేటా సెంటర్ ఒకసారి స్టాండర్డ్ వర్షన్ వేసి చెక్ చేయండి. 2012 ఉందా?
ఉంటుందండి.
స్టాండర్డ్ అండ్ ఎంటర్ప్రైజ్.
ఎంటర్ప్రైజ్ అనేది రెండే వెర్షన్ ఉంది 12లో.
12 మొత్తం 5 వర్షన్స్ ఉన్నాయి మీకు.
యాక్చువల్గా 4 మనం కన్సిడర్ చేయాల్సింది రెండేనండి.
యాక్చువల్గా 5 ఉన్నాయి. 5 అయితే మనం అసలు వాడడం ఒకటి, అది సూపర్ కంప్యూటర్స్లో వాడతారు, టిటానియం, అది సపరేట్ ఓఎస్ అసలు.
ఇంటానియం అది మామూలుగా వెర్షన్స్ ఉండేవి 4 అనండి. డేటా సెంటర్, స్టాండర్డ్ అండ్ ఎసెన్షియల్, ఫౌండేషన్ అండి. ఫౌండేషన్, ఎసెన్షియల్ అనేది 25 యూజర్ 15 యూజర్స్ వాడతాము. మిగతా ఉన్నవి రెండే వెర్షన్ అండి, స్టాండర్డ్ అండ్ డేటా సెంటర్. స్టాండర్డ్ కి డేటా సెంటర్స్ కి ఓన్లీ 2 డిఫరెన్స్. వన్ ఈజ్ ఓన్లీ విఎం డిఫరెన్స్, అదే హైపర్-వి ఒకటే డిఫరెన్స్ అండి. హైపర్-వి వచ్చేసరికి అన్లిమిటెడ్, దీంట్లో లిమిటెడ్.
దాంట్లో 2-4 ఇన్స్టెన్స్ వస్తాయి మీకు స్టాండర్డ్.
స్టాండర్డ్ లో 2 ఇన్స్టెన్స్ వస్తాయి. డేటా సెంటర్ అన్లిమిటెడ్, బట్ హార్డ్వేర్ కంపాటబిలిటీ డిఫరెన్స్ ఉంటుంది. ఇది నేను ట్రై చేస్తానండి. నాకు ఏమైనా అవసరం అయితే నేను మెసేజ్ పెడతాను, ఎందుకంటే ఈవినింగ్కి నేను రెడీ చేయాలి కాబట్టి.
ఓకే అండి.
ఇన్ కేసు నాకు ఏదైనా డౌట్ ఉంటే మీకు వాట్సాప్లో మెసేజ్ పెడతాను.
ఓకే అండి. నేను 11 నుంచి 10:30 నుంచి 11:30 దాకా ఉన్నాను.
మీరు ఎప్పుడు అడిగితే అప్పుడు రిప్లై ఇవ్వండి. నేనేమి
ఓకే అండి, అంటే చెప్తున్నాను నేను అవైలబిలిటీ గురించి.
ఓకే, నో ప్రాబ్లం.
చాలా అయితే అండి.
ఓకే,
బాయ్ అండి.
Sunday,